Good Wednesday morning. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated around what's happening around the business world. We'll give you the updates here of what's happening in the Middle East, at least as we know it this morning. Private employers reporting is out from ADP as well. We'll get that over to you as well. The payrolls did grow stronger than expected here in the last month. We'll give you that update. Of course, national, local stories you need to know, along with stocks we're paying attention to. So let's get into it with that Market Watch. Well, everything's down today. Oil prices, bond yields, they're creeping higher. And what do I mean by creeping higher? Oil's still in that $90 range here, even though hostilities have kind of happened again there in the Middle East overnight. President Trump did say Iran did agree to not have nuclear weapons in their talks, but he did say, quote, they can change their mind, unquote, which they absolutely can do, right, moving forward. Oil is trending up here this morning, but again, in that $90 range. I was reading earlier the reason why oil prices aren't escalating as much with these festivities over there in the Middle East. China demand is way down, and China gets most of its oil, or a lot of its oil, from Iran in that Strait of Hormuz. And their demand is down, which taking some pressure off of things. So although oil is creeping up, not at the higher levels that it was before. But all this is affecting the market today, obviously. Dow Jones down 367 points right now, 50,994. The S&P 500 is down 36 points to 7580. Kobe, you'll have to repeat that for me. Sorry, folks. Production thing here. Yeah. And then NASDAQ here, 137 points down right now to 26,956 on the NASDAQ. Russell 2K, as you can tell, also down today, 29 points to 28.99 as we're looking at it here this morning. As I said, oil prices, bond yields creeping higher, the threat of a non-ceasefire in the Middle East, all affecting the markets here today. And then there's Bitcoin continuing its fall down, 66,612 this morning. What's happening there is investors are turning their money to other industries and other areas, and they're taking it out of Bitcoin here with this sell-off that's been happening around Bitcoin over the past week or so. And then stocks we're paying attention to here this morning. Well, first one, there's several here, and I don't know if we have the graphs. If not, you'll just be staring at me while I talk about them here. But private equity firms are in the watching eye here today as well. All private equity firms, or a lot of them, they've fallen. Bloomberg News has reported that Partners Group, that's a Swiss-based private equity firm, they have capped withdrawals from one of its private equity funds. Well, that's putting this whole private equity fund market, at least in terms of their stock markets, down. We don't have the graphs for these, so we apologize today. Just some technical issues we're having out there. But I'll just tell you, Blackstone is down about 6% here today. KKR, they're down about 5.5%. Blue Owl Capital, owl is in the bird, it's down about 4% today as well. So these private equity firms taking hits. Guys, you don't like to see any private equity firm, if they cap your withdrawal amounts, means they want to keep as much money as possible, or they don't have enough liquidity to cash out. People are trying to cash out more than what they have, causing that whole private equity firm industry to go down. Later on when we come back, if we'll see if we have the stocks working by then, but if not, we're going to tell you about Marvel Technology. Huge update yesterday, right? 30+% up yesterday. I think it ended up at around 32%. We'll look up into them again. Macy's in terms of retailers, and also GameStop making some news today as well. So we'll get you updated on those also. But let's get into these stories here, because U.S. private employers, we get this from the ADP reporting, as we said, right? The ADP, the payroll processor. Well, they added 122,000 jobs in May. Strong employment numbers here, at least on this side. Economists surveyed by Bloomberg had expected an increase of only 120,000 jobs. That's an increase from April's revised level of 105,000. It's just continuing the idea of at least the low fire market that we're in. Market stabilization is out there with these numbers. Gains are led by education and even health services, though 8 of the 10 super sectors ADP tracks did post positive movement last month. The official unemployment rate for the month will be published on Friday in the Labor Department's jobs report. That's the government jobs report. So that'll be the next big eyeballs to look at as well. But these job openings and turnover report from the federal government that came out yesterday, it offers mixed signals for job seekers. Job openings surged in April to their highest level since May of 2024. Well, that means the ratio of vacancies to unemployed workers to its best level since the beginning of last year. The openings were largely concentrated in just one sector, and that would be professional and business services. Seems to be the industry, hiring and working the most. But hiring has continued to slide just slightly. The quits rate, meaning people that are leaving their jobs on their voluntary purposes, that's seen as a barometer of workers' confidence in the job market. Well, it decreased slightly at that time. So basically, our economy, we've talked about this before, no one's eager to make moves. So nobody's really hiring in big amounts, nobody's really quitting in big amounts. And I know there's a lot of layoff announcements and things like that, but even those are kind of relative here overall in the market. So for now, the labor market does, in fact, at least according to the numbers, remain mostly stable in this economy and continues to be so as well. So it's not doesn't mean it's not a tough market out there if you're looking for a job. It definitely is because people aren't hiring at the rates they had before to the numbers they looked before and the dollar amounts, right? All of the job postings out there. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, in the radio business that, radio is not doing well and that he's been looking for jobs and stuff and just everything he gets offered is pennies on the dollars compared to what it's been offered at before because of the amount of people they have obviously applying at those positions, trying to just find something out there as well. So the more numbers showing, and we'll see what Friday's job report says. I suspect it's going to be very similar to what we see now. It's just going to continue to reinforce the stable environment of low hire, no fire economy out there. The other thing that's affecting markets and reporting, we saw it yesterday. We looked at Victoria's Secret. Their numbers were for the year, their guidelines and everything for the year were redone up. They said why? Tariff costs are way down. Obviously, tariffs have been kind of put on their head by the Supreme Court, and things are coming up there. Well, trying to get back into that tariff mode, the U.S. is proposing new tariffs of at least 10% on imports from 60 trading partners. This is Donald Trump and his administration's biggest move to rebuild its protectionist wall. This is his first big attempt since his earlier levies were deemed illegal there by the Supreme Court. So it's an investigation, is what we announced this about a month or so ago. We told you about this. They're doing the investigation into how trade partners handle goods that are allegedly produced by forced labor. Right? They're making forced labor do the work. We don't want that products here. And a 10% tariff rate would apply to imports from Canada, Mexico, the European Union, Taiwan, and the UK. There's some other places, but those are the main ones there as well. We get all this from the Office of U.S. Trade Representative, put out a statement yesterday. Products from other major economies, which includes China, India, Japan, South Korea, Brazil, and Switzerland, they're going to be subject to a 12.5% tariff as well from that perspective. Beijing obviously denied the allegations of forced labor being used, and he criticized Trump's move. An official in Tokyo did say Japan is in close contact with their counterparts here in Washington about the matter. The EU did call it unjustified, and they added that the bloc would respect the terms of its trade accord with the U.S. That's what the EU always does. It says, we have a deal, we're sticking to our deal, regardless of what you say you're going to do. It's always the EU's response out there. Now, this is all a major step in Trump's push to reinstate the tariffs imposed during his first year in office. Basically replace those ones deemed illegal by the Supreme Court. And we'll see where it goes. But don't forget, the recommended duties are a result of probes launched under that separate legal authority. This is the Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. You'll just hear people refer to that as Section 301 in this. A section of 301 investigations includes the review of U.S. trading partners' excess manufacturing capacities, and the findings of which may be released soon. We told you that a couple months ago. They said, our people, our countries, a la China, overproducing things, driving down the cost here of American production and exports to other countries, and things to that effect. Trade analysts are speculating whether any future duties from that probe would be stackable on top of these proposed one under the forced labor investigations that we're getting these 10% and 12.5% stories now. So the investigation basically says forced labor out there is what they are looking at for the excuse for these new tariffs. And then don't forget, we have also on that tariff line the United States and Mexico meeting without Canada for the U.S. Mexico Canada trade agreement out there that expires here coming up. And now Canada, who's not involved in these early talks, they're urging the United States and Mexico to renew the actual trade agreement that in its current form between the three countries. Just go ahead and extend it, is what they're saying, the way it is now. They're trying to put pressure on these negotiations between the two countries, that is excluding Canada. In a Tuesday letter to U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer and to the Mexico's Economy Secretary, Canada's Minister of U.S. Trade called on the countries to re-sign the United States, Canada, Mexico. That's that USMCA is what you'll hear this referred to. They say, go ahead and re-sign it as it is for another 16-year period. The deadline to do so is July 1st here coming up. And that's Canada's negotiation from afar. As I said, they are not involved in these talks at all from that perspective. It is interesting to see here. Canada does say they don't see that they don't think there needs to be any improvements. But they also went on to say, we'll look into whatever negotiation happens between these two companies in terms of the trade, is what they're claiming on the other side. So, yeah, it's a beautiful, I guess, a beautiful thing here to be involved in the conversations. I know I think it's June 16th through June 18th, Canada and the United States get together again to have more talks without Canada on this reporting as well. So this was the exact quote here that Canada said. They acknowledge that some countries might want to propose improvements and that Canada is willing to consider any proposal that can be beneficial to all three nations' long-term prosperity. That's great. All these countries, Canada, Mexico, and United States, we've been bound together by free trade agreement. Since 1992, it has been it used to be called the North American Free Trade Agreement. I still refer to it as that, even though it's the USMCA now. It was, of course, renewed under Trump's first term back, what was that, 8 years ago now or so as well. 6 years ago or so now, I guess we can say there. So it can be reviewed annually or it can be approved for 16 years at once. And again, that deadline is July 1st there as well. And talks between Mexico, it's going to be hosted in the United States here for U.S. and Mexico. June 16th and 17th is the exact dates. Again, Canada left out, doing their little barbs there, hoping to get some pressure on the negotiations coming up as well. And, so we have all the large stuff out there. We've told you about the hiring, the firing, the economy in terms of that. We know inflation is being slightly ticking back up into that 3% range, whereas it was kind of stuck at the high twos there for a while. Well, we know the viewpoint of the consumers out there with the University of Michigan reports consumer confidence and things. What about corporate leadership, CEOs? Well, we have some updated numbers on that here as well. Corporate leadership across America, well, they've lost faith in the current trajectory of the U.S. economy, swinging sharply from optimism to pessimism in just 3 months. Those swings don't happen fast. It happened in 3 months here as well. This is the Conference Board measure of CEO confidence. They do this in collaboration with the Business Council. Well, they conduct its quarterly survey of 141 CEOs. They found that the overall score fell to 47 in quarter two. It was at 59 in quarter one. So that's a 12-point drop And just like I said, those 3 months. Any reading below 50, well, it means negative outlooks outnumber positive ones. And we're currently sitting at the 47 number from the CEO vantage point. 15% of CEOs say the economy is better than 6 months ago. Well, I don't know what world they're living in, right? But that's down from 39% in quarter one. 47% of the CEOs say it's worse. That's up from 8% 6 months ago. Additionally, 40% of respondents expect economic conditions to worsen over the next 6 months. 13% who felt that way last quarter. Yeah, corporations are signaling belt tightening, shrinking hiring plans, and preparing for potential layoffs if we do go towards that recession and the economy getting worse out there. 31% of these CEO respondents, there was 141 of them, so 31% of them expect to reduce their workforce over the next 6 months, which now outpaces the 28% who plan to expand hiring. Planned wage hikes are losing steam. Concentration in the 3 to 4% range is what, if they are doing some, they're saying 3 to 4% range. 53% of CEOs reported some problems in some areas when hiring, not finding quality candidates, uh, you know, candidates wanting too much type of situation. So even the outlook now on CEOs and their companies and the futures of what their company's doing is very, very negative right now compared to, just like I said, 3 months ago, let alone 6 months ago when it's way down at that point. So it's just the way the economy is going right now. And, the war obviously is attributing to that. And these CEOs see belt tightening coming up from companies, from consumers, and everybody moving forward. So everybody's kind of, if you're feeling it out there as a consumer, as a homeowner, as a just a person out there trying to survive, believe me, everybody's starting to feel it as well, and they're starting to report on it as well as we continued on. And you might have last night here in Phoenix. This does affect Phoenix and multiple cities. If you have DirecTV, you might have sat down last night and tuned in and tried to watch Game One of that Stanley Cup Final last night, Vegas and Carolina. You might not have seen it. You might have seen a message instead saying that the contract, with Scripps has expired out there. The message directed viewers interested in the Stanley Cup Final. It's going to happen to the NBA Finals as well. They directed you to ESPN, Hulu, or Disney Plus apps, is what DirecTV did. Here's what DirecTV says on social media. Scripps is demanding the highest rates DirecTV has ever received from a station group. That would continue to dramatically raise costs for consumers and businesses already struggling with affordability. DirecTV posted that on social media. They went on to say after DirecTV declined those demands and sought a more reasonable agreement, Scripps chose to remove its stations from viewers in several major markets nationwide. So DirecTV said 54 local stations in 36 markets went offline yesterday. That does include Las Vegas, right, where you got the Knights that are playing that in that series. Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Denver, Detroit, Kansas City, Miami, Milwaukee, Nashville. I guess we're naming them all here. No, we're naming the big ones. Salt Lake City, Tampa, St. Petersburg, all one area there. They were among it. Several other markets, as I said, 54 of them. Phoenix was one of those markets as well. Scripps CEO, he came out in an interview with Awful announcing he actually blamed DirecTV's management for the impasse. He kind of blamed what I like to blame, and I don't like it in this economy, and I don't like what they do. He said, quote, they're run by private equity, meaning DirecTV. They have MBAs running the numbers. I don't really think they care about the work we do in the local communities and that local people actually rely on, whether it's local news or local sports. They're just saying all they care about is the numbers, which is all private equity cares about. They don't care about anything but how much money can we make in the process. So now another broadcast, being affected here for people. Phoenix is one of those markets as well for DirecTV out there. So that's what's happening if you tuned in last night and saw, some of your channels down last night. It's going to continue as well, obviously, until there's an impasse gone. And it just, these arguments with the subscribers, the cable companies and all that, just they're just awful. They're terrible, and I don't know why we put up with it as consumers. To be honest with you. Hey, when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we keep the show running. We'll look at stocks coming up here. If the graphs aren't working, that's okay. We'll still tell you about them out there. We'll look at that Marvel Technologies. What's it doing today after yesterday's big growth from it? Of course, a couple retailers, including GameStop, coming your way. And then, of course, local stories you need to know. And we'll end with a lawsuit with Outback Steak. So they've had a lot of lawsuits over the last few years. Another one's happening over in Virginia. Just a little perspective here from our side here on Outback is I can relate to this problem. I haven't been hurt by it, but I can relate to this problem at Outback. So we'll talk about that as well. Come on back, folks. It's McCollum on Business. And welcome back to McCollum on Business. I lost my earpiece and I couldn't hear Kobe very well. And what a fun break that was there. Hey, we're here at McCollum on Business Wednesday edition. Just a quick programming note. Don't forget, we will not be here tomorrow on McCollum on Business. I do have a personal thing I got to take care of around 8 o'clock tomorrow, and so I will not be here tomorrow. We'll be back on Friday at 7 a.m. with your business news. Main event will continue the rest of the week. Tomorrow, Uncle Lou's coming in for the 2 hours with 17-year NFL veteran Del Hellestree as well. So make sure you join them still. You can catch all of our programming, at least this show and the main event, live here on YouTube, TME Media AZ out there. Don't forget to follow TME Media AZ on X. That's where we put the show updates on, if there is a day it has to go dark or, not going because of markets closure or other conflicting things that can't be moved out there. Make sure you're following that for the news, plus what we do around here as well. We met yesterday with somebody helping us out with this business show, and we're looking to change the format, get some more business guests on here that we can talk to. So that format is starting to go as we have somebody reaching out to their contacts to get us more guests on here. And I'm sure it'll take a little bit, obviously, to dial it up, but that's going to kind of improve this program coming up. Don't forget, all of our programs are live or live there on YouTube in terms of this show and the main event. Everything else is on demand there on YouTube, TME Media AZ. So the pit stop, which comes your way later on today by 2 o'clock, it'll be up at YouTube. Also over on Rumble, all of our programming is over there, including The Real Matrix. On Fridays at noon, new shows pop up there on on Rumble. Rumble.com/users/TME Media is where you can find it over there. Just click on the channel button just above the videos when you go to that page, and then you can click on The Real Matrix, and they pop up there. A little bit less convoluted than that main page that Rumble has there as well. They're noon on Fridays, of course, free podcast systems as well for all of our shows except for this one. Just search the show name, right? The Real Matrix. Put the Angry Patriot on the back side of that because there's a lot of Matrix shows out there, as you can imagine. But The Real Matrix, Angry Patriot, pops right up for you on your free podcast system. The pit stop with Steven, it pops up there. The pit stop talk there on X, or you could search that on the free podcast systems for the pit stop. New episode today where we look back at racing last weekend. Streets of Detroit for Indianapolis. Excuse me, for the Indy cars. And of course, NASCAR last weekend in Nashville. NASCAR this weekend coming up. We'll get you updated on that here later on today as well. As soon as we're done here, this show gets put up on demand, as well as the main event when we're done live here, 8 to 10 a.m. here on YouTube, TME Media AZ. And with all that news out there, with us being dark tomorrow, let's get you your market watch, our last market watch here until Friday. Here, let's get it, the market watch. Folks, it's been one of those days. I'm not going to lie to you this morning. Hey, we're persevering through it, right? If everything went perfect, everybody would do it, right? And it'd be an easy life and it'd be part of the fun. Well, nothing easy about today with the market. You know, the festivities firing up again over there in the Middle East. Treasury yields creeping up, oil creeping up, but still in the 90s. But the markets are selling off today, and there's just going to continue to happen throughout the day. I doubt we're getting a turnaround here at any time. You see the Dow Jones right now down 404 points. It's gotten worse as the show has gone on here. The S&P 500 is down to 32 points. The Nasdaq's down 91 points right now. And then the Russell 2K, you can tell, down 18 points as well. There's live update coming right now. President Trump has said that him and Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, I should say, Netanyahu says he and Trump have tactical disagreements, but agree overall, is what he is saying right now. It's probably why we're seeing some more sell-off here on the market right now as well. Bitcoin, although it is up for the day, technically 40 points right now, it's down 66,709 here today as that continues its free fall as people are just taking their money out of the cryptocurrencies and putting them someplace else out there as well. Stocks we're paying attention to this segment, Marvel Technology is what we're looking at here. I don't know if we have the graphs yet. If not, it's no problem. We'll just tell you about it out there. The stock, yesterday was on that huge uptick. 32% up yesterday is where it ended up at. Well, in this morning, it's more than 13% as well. So that trend on Marvel Technology that we talked about yesterday is still riding high for that stock out there. So just a quick update for that one. And then we'll look at Macy's here as well. We don't have the graph for you, as I said, but they're up about 1.5% here today. They posted its strongest first quarter growth in over 4 years for Macy's. Remember, this was a struggling retailer over the last several years. Revenue came in above estimates for Macy's. It came in at $4.68 billion. The expectation was $4.61 billion for them. They also hiked its full-year outlook. So Macy's looks like it's on the rebound here in troubling times, no less, here for retailers for the most part. Macy's coming back here and showing some life here in terms of their numbers and their stock as well. Then the last stock we're going to talk about today is GameStop out there. A video game retailer, you know them. They were part of that meme stock craze a few years ago. Well, they're up 13% roughly here today. They reported adjusted earnings of 30 cents per share in their first quarter. That was above analysts polled. They expected 16 cents in earnings per share. So they practically doubled it, right? Almost doubled their earnings per share, GameStop did. Revenue rose 14% from a year ago as well. So GameStop continuing, I'm going to say their turnaround. They've always had a little bit of success, but they're hitting bigger numbers as it goes on there for GameStop as well in terms of the retail side. We've seen some big retail numbers. Victoria's Secrets yesterday, Macy's, GameStop here today. And yesterday Victoria's Secret gave credit to less, obviously, tariffs out there with the tariffs deemed illegal and things to that effect. So I wonder if that's helping some of these other retailers because we know consumers are cutting back right now and they're still hitting those numbers out there. Let's get into the local stories we need to talk about here today as well. A couple short ones and then I think I've had this problem at Outback. We're going to talk about that here coming up, but luckily I haven't been hurt by it. But let's go up to Scottsdale first, and Scottsdale doing what every municipality has been doing lately, and with the water arguments over who gets what from the Colorado River, data centers taking a ton of water, causing rates to go up. Well, Scottsdale is going to be using part of its recent water rate increase. They're going to use that money to fund additional water sources and supplies moving forward. The Scottsdale City Council approved a 4.5% rate bump last month. The city receives about 70% of its water from the Colorado River. We're getting further cuts in the Colorado River allocation later this year. So we don't know any final numbers on how less we're going to get, but when you receive 70% of your water from that means you're going to get less water, obviously, and big amounts of less water coming up. So they need to find other sources. While the majority of the rate increases are for infrastructure and operating costs, smaller portion will fund other sources like water conservation. Scottsdale is looking into advanced water purification, buying groundwater from the Harquahala Valley. I butchered it. I know. I apologize. But they also want to expand Bartlett Dam on the Verde River. No final decisions have been made on which way they're going to go, but those are options that they've discussed so far. And like I said, I sincerely apologize to that valley for butchering that name. The new water rates, if you're in Scottsdale, they will go into effect November 1st coming up here, that 4.5%. But, we've seen water rates go up, and I wanted to just bring it to your attention. They're not going to go down anytime soon here moving forward, especially for the municipalities that rely on a lot of that Colorado River water out there. Hey, let's go downtown here to Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. They're now officially purchasing dozens more transponders. This is all to improve tarmac safety by keeping vehicles off active runways. You've been following the news lately, and we've had a few close calls and one big incident. I believe it was in New York with a vehicle getting run over by planes and destroying the planes in the process. The Phoenix City Council approved about $500,000 in funding last month for 85 vehicle movement area transponders. They call them VMAT units, is what they're called. That will let air traffic controllers track ground vehicles in real time. Mayor Kate Gallardo says she was thankful the council was able to move this measure forward and as quickly as they did. There was, I want to say it was New York, but I remember there was that big crash where the plane landed and hit the responding vehicle and crashed the plane. And if they had those transponders, it might have helped everyone see those vehicles and where they were headed to and better understand what was about to happen. And they could have hopefully averted it is what they're hoping these sensors will do. And it was LaGuardia's airport. The more I think about it as well, that was that one back in April, March, end of March, beginning of April timeframe as well. So Phoenix was one of the first cities to pilot those VMAT technologies. We currently have 5 in operations down there at Sky Harbor, and expanding that with more of them coming up as well. So I'm all for safety around airports, and now if we can keep people off of them, I've seen that video in the last month as well. How do we keep people from jumping fences and running onto airports is the next question you've got. Now let's talk about this a little bit. Now this is a national story, and it's going to seem like I'm picking on Outback, but I don't go to Outback too much anymore. A bunch of reasons why. Every once in a while, I'll get a hankering for it and head in there. Just always feels like their floors are slick when you walk in. Well, a Virginia woman is seeking $1.5 million from Outback Steakhouse. She says she slipped on mashed potatoes inside the restaurant and fell face first onto the floor, suffering serious and permanent injuries is what the lawsuit claims there as well. Yeah, she's 56 years old. I don't name people in lawsuits, but we do know her name. But she alleges that the incident happened while she was dining with her family at Outback Steakhouse over in Sterling, Virginia. It was May 14th, 2023, and the lawsuit's being filed now. It was first filed in Loudoun County Circuit Court in May of 2025. So 2 years afterwards. It was moved. The reason why it's still out there is it was moved to a federal court just this year, a year later, May 27th of this year. and it accuses the restaurant of failing to maintain safe conditions for their guests. So, according to this complaint, she said she was walking to the restroom when she slipped on a slippery substance on the floor that appeared to be mashed potatoes. Yeah. They say that the fall caused her to land face first on the hard flooring. Her filing argues that the chain had the legal duty to maintain a safe environment and to warn customers of hazards. It claims no warning was posted about the substance and that the restaurant allowed the spill to remain on the floor for an unreasonable amount of time. That's all the argument in the lawsuit is going to be about, right? It says the condition created an unreasonably dangerous situation for patrons and even alleges negligence in failing to address or remove the spill in that timely manner. It claims she has experienced significant pain, reduced ability to work, and ongoing medical costs as a result of the fall. It does not provide any detailed medical descriptions of her injuries, and her attorney did not publicly elaborate on what her medical conditions are during and now or even after the fall as well. Obviously, Outback Steakhouse denied the allegations because the case is ongoing. The company has argued, though, that it has no notice of any hazardous condition. It doesn't have to give notice of hazardous condition. It had no obligation to post a warning about the alleged spill. It also disputed claims about the extent of the injuries from the claimant as well. And all I just want to say on this is Outback's had a lot of these types of lawsuits from Glass and Sweet Potatoes over the last few years. Things like this happening around their restaurants and things to that effect. And their floors seem extra slick when you walk in them. Maybe I am picking a little bit on Outback today because they've gone downhill over the years. Hey, folks, appreciate you joining me here for McCollum on Business here on this Wednesday edition. We got the main event coming up here as we get to it here at 8 o'clock live here. We appreciate you joining us very much. Let me just check all the feeds here just really quick, see where we are standing with everything. And everything's running well here today, except for the graphs and some other things, but we survived it. Hey, just roll with whatever goes wrong today that you're accustomed to. Nothing you can do about it, but just keep rolling on, folks. We'll see you on Friday here at McCollum on Business. Don't forget, McCollum on Business starts tomorrow. There is a main event there with Uncle Lou and Dale Hellestray tomorrow. So enjoy your day off of McCollum on Business tomorrow. We'll see you Friday morning here, 7 a.m. Have a great Wednesday night.